As Sean mentioned, my name is James Seth Thompson. I'm currently head of diverse market strategy at Bernstein Private Wealth Management. We are an investment management and research firm where we meet the complex financial needs and wealth management needs of families, individuals, corporations, and nonprofits, right? Some of the most underserved individuals around the country are plagued with lack of access, right? So when Sean, came to me and shared this idea, obviously I was going to be on board and support any way possible. But access to information and education, I think, is really key to kind of meeting the needs that are very disparate across healthcare, mass transit, education, community economic development. So my passion for social impact really starts with education. And I've been fortunate over the last couple of years or so to make sure I can incorporate that into my work as an advisor and lead business development person.
I'm a lawyer in New Orleans right now. I was blessed to meet the Kent family when I was 19 or 20 at the University of Pennsylvania. For me, community has always been a high priority ever since I was young. I'm not sure if it's because of my mother's influence or my father's influence or family or religion, or I don't know that there's one specific thing, but it's always been high on my list of how can I help people. And that's just been something that's been extremely important to me. At Penn, one of the ways that I did it, one of several, was to get to be a tutor, and it was a wonderful experience for me. And after I left Penn and came back to New Orleans, I tutored for a couple of years as well at a school downtown near my office. A huge number of my volunteer activities have been involved in youth, whether it's religious or tutoring or other things. That's been really important to me. Blessed with access to education, for sure. One of the things that I've always been important to me is to take advantage of the opportunities that I've been given and to work as hard as I can at whatever it is that I'm doing.
I'm thrilled and honored to have this opportunity to speak and be a part of my wife's venture to make a difference in the communities that we have an opportunity to have an impact on. And so my background is I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Went to public school in the 70s where there was busing going on and it was desegregation of public schools. And that had a strong impact on me being exposed to education outside of my local community. Had a chance to go to the Great Parkway program, which was known at the time as the School Without Walls. And that's where I came in contact with some great champions. So fast forward to my adult world, I graduated from college and got an opportunity to work at Glen Mills, which was a reform school for boys, working with youth. And that was eye-opening. My son Leland inspired me to be a teacher, and education is where I landed, and it has been the best opportunity for me to really have an impact, not just reacting when I worked in criminal justice to this side. I'm on the front end, and I'm able to have an opportunity to make sure that we stop this school to prison pipeline.
As I think about me, just from a personal and a professional perspective, taking maybe a little bit of a different approach than a formal bio, I'd ask that you think about it in the context of approaching 20, 23, and 25. So I'm a parent of three children, of three teenage children, almost 20 years of parenting. Love my kids, 19, 15, and 13, and they are certainly all very unique and different and have different needs. So the mission and the focus of the Village Education Tutor certainly resonates with me. 23, so approaching 23 years of marriage with my wife and my best friend, a wonderful person, and someone that's found a way to put up with me over the years here. And then 25, I'm approaching 25 years of professional experience, and across two very distinct organizations. One, I started, as Sean mentioned, at a college as an accountant and got my certified public accountant licensure, and joined KPMG, so a global accounting and advisory services organization, one that had a lot of great culture and great people and a great opportunity for me. About 18 years ago, I transitioned to another great organization where I am today, Cigna, so a global health services organization. And I've had the privilege to serve in a variety of leadership opportunities. Some of those enabled Sean and I to work together in the trenches and work together as colleagues and partners. I would say a theme throughout my 25 years of professional experience, and intends to carry itself through my personal life, is every day when I get up, I want to focus on things that I'm passionate about. I want to be able to have a positive impact and make a difference every day. And thirdly, I want to enjoy the people I'm around. The people that I choose to be around from both a professional and a personal perspective are tend to be very good, high standard, high character, quality people, and people that I just really enjoy spending time with. As an individual, super kind, selfless, compassionate, fulfilled by just whatever she can do to help other people. And I would say, well, my mother's my hero. My wife is the best person I know. And as I think about how that's kind of influenced my life, and as I mentioned, I like to spend the time with people that I enjoy every day. I think about back to the career commentary around, I want to do things that I'm passionate about, that I'm enjoying every day, and that I got a positive impact. The other things is how I go about doing that. And so doing the right thing always, giving 100%, being humble, being grateful, never leaving anything on the field would be an approach that I would take every day. And so as I think about ways in which I personally have engaged in the community, there's 3 organizations or 3 efforts that I would point to in particular. So there's a local community interfaith housing alliance, as you would imagine, focused on families in need, housing in particular, but we also spend a lot of time in the food pantry as a family. The second one, Brave Hearts for Strong Minds. It's an orientation towards children that have lost a parent, and how do we ensure that they get the right education throughout their life, and in particular as they work through into college opportunities. And the last one is a bit more personal, around just coaching. So whether it's each of my 3 children, whether it's baseball, basketball, or soccer, I've had a long history of engaging with kids, trying to help them be successful and helping them learn from their failures. And so that's a big part of how I've been engaging with the community to give back, and obviously very excited to be part of Village Education Tutors going forward. As I think about the psychological aspect of the question, Seth, I think it's a little bit more challenging and complex for me. I guess I would say, while I come at most things from a perspective of humility, the current societal challenges have put me in a very different position of potentially insecurity and uncertainty relative to how I engage, and am I doing enough at any given point in time. And so as I've been reflecting on certainly the last couple months, but even the last couple years, and thinking about the privileges that I've had, there's a desire to want to step in and be a better part of the solution. And so that's a framework where I am from a psychological perspective in the context of community and giving back.
Sean started in the financial aid office before I did. I was a student, and as like many students, my mom made just enough that we weren't poor, but not enough that we could afford to pay. And I needed to take 2 summer classes to be able to graduate the following spring. I was looking for 3rd jobs. I was doing all kinds of things. And somebody said, well, stop by the financial aid office. I'd never really been there because I didn't ever qualify for anything. So I show up, I don't know who my financial aid officer is. I don't know anything about it. And I walk in and there's Sean. I start my story and she said, you can't make that much. And I was like, I don't make anything. Well, turns out that there was some summer grant program that I now am fully aware of called the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, that there was a pot of money that nobody had come in and asked for. They were able to pay for my summer classes and I was able to graduate on time. When I explained to you that I do believe that story has changed the entire trajectory of my career. I am now the director of financial aid to be able to try and make that same thing possible for other students. I think what people miss is that a modicum of empathy and actually listening to somebody, you never know what their story is. I was raised in a small town in Western Pennsylvania, an hour north of Pittsburgh. It's called Ford City. The only thing people have usually heard of it for is that Gus Perot was my high school quarterback. I was a good student. But again, my mom was a social worker, so she made enough not to fall into any category that made you grant eligible. So the only thing that we could really do were loans and her to pay. She was a single mom. I was her only child. She'd done everything but her doctorate degree, so she was incredibly educated. But her passion for the community said that she was never going to make a lot trying to help kids that were being abused. I say all that to say, I didn't want to stay in a small town and I didn't want to be broke. So I get to Temple, I graduate, and I needed to get a job. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a degree in rhetoric. I thought I was going to law school. I realized that I was going to go into debt going to law school and didn't want to do that either. I go back to Temple University. At this point, it wasn't even a website. You had to go look at a job posting board. And there was an opening in financial aid. And I thought, well, I liked what they did for me. I randomly apply. Months pass, they call me in for an interview. They're like, we like that you're an alumni. You seem to have a really good work ethic, blah, 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 blah. They hired me. I started January 5th, 1998. Sean is still there. And I say, I know you. She, again, has no idea who I am or the impact that she had on me and my career. And I just want to thank you for that one chance incident and the difference that it can make. And I've been trying to repeat that for students, like I said, for the last 22 years. I think that tools like what this is and helping to put things in place for families to have something to rely on and to try and help navigate some of the parts that have made this hard are crucial.
Hired Sean as a student worker of mine, working in the financial aid office. See, we all have that connection too, right? So I was working in the financial aid office, entry-level position. Previous to that, I was a high school guidance and college and career guidance counselor at 2 Catholic schools in South Philadelphia. But I'm gonna have to really agree with Felicia from this standpoint. Having had the experience of working in financial aid was really a game changer for me. As an undergraduate student, I received financial aid. I qualified for all of the federal and state grants, but also needed student loans to fill in the gap. And so working in financial aid has really been one of the best things in my whole 31 plus year career in higher education. Now, who has access, who's allowed access? And all of that goes back to what it is that Sean's trying to do, which is, bridge the gap, fill the void at the earliest possible levels so that students can have not just access to, because that's just the first part, right? Beyond access, somebody has to be on the other side of access to provide support and advocacy and help to remove the barriers. And that has always been who I've been. And so it really, for me, has nothing to do with a title or profession or a job, to answer the question. Service is what I do. And so supporting community, wherever I am, is my community. And it's my purpose. And it's also my responsibility. But more than that, it's really a privilege to be able to be supportive of people, because I've had that. Like, I've had it from my mom, my dad, my siblings, my relatives, teachers, counselors, former employers, one landlord. It's not always organized, but it's always relevant, and it's always necessary, and it's always appreciated. And Sean, in you doing this, the timing couldn't be more perfect.
I think listening is very important. I think being a good role model is very important. And I think you connect differently to everyone.
So to answer your question about exposure, I think that's a great question. And it's a question that needs to be answered I believe that growth is a function of exposure. If you told me when I was in middle school or high school that I would be working in tech at one of the biggest companies, Facebook, holding an advanced degree in statistics, I would have thought you were on that stuff. Growing up, I never really did great in math in high school. They actually put me in the math class for the people that weren't good enough to be in pre-calculus or calculus. So, but I think the reason that happened was because I lacked exposure. If in photography, exposure is the amount of light that reaches a film. If a film is underexposed, the details will be lost in the shadows. So although I had two dedicated college educated parents, I never had a Black male teacher that taught me mathematics. And because of that, I couldn't really identify with it. But staying on the concept of light, when I went to Morehouse College, whose motto is ad facto et luz, or let there be light, I had my first Black male professor. His name was Dr. Cooper, and he was so excited about calculus that he would literally hop around the classroom and throw chalk at students if they fell asleep. He changed my image of mathematics by exposing me to its beauty. But Morehouse was my village, a house on a hill, sometimes of debt. And because of Dr. Cooper, I became a mathematics teacher. As an inner city teacher in DC, I met so many students who were so bright, but underexposed. I felt like I was going to be that hero that was going to bridge the achievement gap, one student at a time. But the mistake I made was trying to teach students math without building the personal relationship, without building the rapport that you talked about, Seth. Many who were in high school performing on a middle school level, and had a very dark image of mathematics. Some had never been out of their neighborhood in DC. So you have me, a young 21-year-old math nerd, trying to convince 30 plus students that they need to learn something they could never see themselves using and couldn't identify with. But before I could change their exposure, I had to first understand their experiences and their environment and try to widen the scope. This is why I'm so excited about the mission of Village Education Tutors. In Village Education Tutors, the mentors, the tutors, the teachers, the parents are all individual rays of light trying to penetrate the film of young, impressionable minds, exposing areas of opportunity and helping out young men and women see a clear picture of their bright futures.
This goes right into what I wanted to talk about when I was trying to think of a way to take an access issue for going into college and how it related to tutoring 6th through 8th graders. And there is a real connection. One of the things that Leland mentioned was having high school students that weren't performing that were still performing on a middle school level. We have students that arrive at college that are still performing on an elementary school level, and they've graduated from high school. I think that what we need to do is look at what can we do once they get to a college to be able to navigate that. One of the things is to try and strengthen what they're learning younger. A better prepared 10-year-old will be a much better college student at 18. You know, it's the things that we pour into our children when they're younger, the things that they grow when they're old. And I think that what we need to do is start taking the experiences of opportunities for our kids, like village tutoring and the mentorship, and saying that there are people that are doing this, and just because you might not see it where you're at, I promise you I'll help you find them. Looking for what a student's talents are and playing to that, thinking that everybody's going to be good at blank, and those are the only things that you're teaching them, and when they're not good at it and telling them they're a failure, is that's your shortcoming. That's not the student's shortcoming. And you build to what the student's strengths are. And I think that's what I like about this opportunity. And as I was reading the mission, I thought, that's what this is doing. It's saying, let me meet you where you're at and grow you there. And I think this is access. I think that college affordability is always going to be a problem. No one is ever going to have enough money to be able to pay out of pocket. What we need to do is make sure that you're prepared so that we can eliminate some of those costs. If you don't need to pay for remediation, you can save yourself thousands of dollars by coming in prepared. How about you come in a little bit ahead and you placed out of Math 100, you placed out of calculus. All of a sudden, you're shaving off classes that you need right from the beginning. And then you're able to catch a Professor Cooper's attention because it's like, this kid might have something going on. Those are the things that I think we need to start doing. Instead of looking at what we're missing, let's start looking at what we can do to shine.
I think there's an absolute need for corporate America to play a more prominent role in some of the community responsibility. But from my perspective, and some folks may disagree, I went back, took a page out of Leland Senior's book and look at the definition of sponsorship and thinking about that as one who assumes responsibility for some other person or thing. So as I reflected on that, that is one, taking accountability. Two, it's a choice. And three, it's for the benefit of somebody else. So as I think about being part of the solution, an important part of me is doing that as a conscious decision versus feeling like I'm checking a box or feeling as if it's an obligation. And so I think as corporate America as a whole does have some responsibility there as I seek to be partnering or being part of a solution. I think it's those organizations that want to step into it and want to be in an uncomfortable place and want to encourage not just financially, but also time and energy commitment. I think that's an important aspect of it. And I know there's plenty of organizations in the Philadelphia and Delaware area that Sean is engaging with. So I'm optimistic that we'll get the appropriate sponsorship for this organization, but I don't think it's a single point of measure. And if I personalize it relative to Village Education Tutors, I don't think success looks like better test scores. That may be one single measure, but that's going to be inadequate, right? Carrying some of Felicia's comments, how do you carry that forward to longer term success, whether it's graduation from high school, successful graduation from college, or pursuit of some other type of career. So I think the measures are critical. I think they need to be diverse and dimensional, and thinking about how there's interplay and trade-offs, because I don't think one size will fit all in a broader sense, but certainly not in the context of these individuals or the students that we're talking about here.
This whole forum, which we're all here because of the relationship we have with Sean. Where it is that we met her along her path, and how it is that we are still in relationship with her and her husband and her children, and she brought her grandbabies to see me last year, Leland, little Lee. I got some kisses. But it's about relationship, right? And that's where it's the relationship that made the difference for the trajectory of Sean. In addition to Sean being her, because the thing about Sean is just, you ain't gonna stop her no way. So you might as well get on her train. That's just the way that it is. But we all recognize that. We supported that. We advocated for her. We shared the space and made the way. But it was a relationship.
What I want to take from this is being able to figure out how I can help support Sean in this initiative and help her to grow this, because I really do see the value in investing in middle schoolers, because I just think it can make such a difference by the time they reach me in college.
This was definitely a great discussion, and it's kind of inspired me to become more involved just in the community. During this time with COVID and everything that's going on, it's easy to just be selfish and focus on building your family, focus on making sure you're okay. But this discussion has not only highlighted that there's a lot of people out there that need exposure, that need support, that need investment, and that also need relationships. So my call to action is going to be to continue to build relationships and continue to especially try to increase the number of Black, brown, and underrepresented people in the tech space.
I think as part of the opportunity with the Village Education Tutors, it's been a privilege to step into that and be part of the village that Sean has pulled together.